All right. Welcome to the Questionable Calls podcast. It's Sunday night, almost 8 o'clock Eastern. We just watched a full slate of NFL games, including the Kansas City Chiefs and the Steelers beating the Commanders today, and then the Jets and the Cowboys sucking like they have been for most of this season. Clark, we talked about this. We've talked about this. We haven't got it up so everybody can see it. But Clark, I just want you to. The Chiefs won today on a blocked field goal at the end of the game, 16-14, and they've won 15 in a row. They're 9-0 this season, and it just every week it gets more and more insane. And they just managed to keep winning somehow. So explain to the audience where you're at with the Chiefs, and then we'll talk about today's game.
Yeah, so the Chiefs have officially entered San Antonio Spurs territory. For those of you who don't understand, the San Antonio Spurs had sort of a dynasty in the early 2000s, and I basically hated every minute of it. I will never forgive them for making me watch them play the Nets in the 2003 finals, which was a complete shit show. Basically what I mean is they were no fun to watch. Now granted, this is one of the differences. Yeah, the Chiefs definitely have some personality, but the Spurs were they reached a point where they were no fun to watch. And I always felt like, okay, it's not that they were lucky. I don't want to say that. I don't want to they were really good, obviously, but it's just like, I felt like they would give other teams a chance, and it felt like, okay, you might be able to win this game, but you're not going to win the game. Bruce Bowen's going to hit a three. Tim Duncan's going to send the game to overtime by hitting a three, which is fucking ridiculous. Manu Ginobili's going to do some weird bullshit, just kind of like, Popovich is going to foul Shaq like crazy or whatever. Like it just got really annoying. And the Chiefs, who started off being really fun to watch, now they're just, it's just really, it's like the Patriots. Okay. It's just efficiency, which, I'm sorry, billionaires, but watching efficiency is just not fun. Okay. So
right.
They're, they're basically grinding these games out. The other team feels like they have a chance, and the Chiefs always win in the end. They can be behind. It doesn't matter. They can have, their receivers can play like crap. Mahomes can throw interceptions. It just doesn't matter. So, and today was just, prime example. I mean, they just pull that game out of their ass. I mean, they were done. The Broncos did everything they needed to do except for, their field goal coverage to be able to make a chip shot field goal. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's just, look, with every dynasty, it just reaches a point where you're like, you know what? I don't want to watch this team anymore. I'm done. Like, I want them to lose, and I'm just rooting against them to lose. I want to see somebody else win. So stuff reaches that point, and and then it's just like, again, I just want them to lose. And so, when they keep pulling these games out and it feels like these other teams have a chance, it's like a slap in the face. It'd be one thing if they're just blowing everybody away, but they're not. You always feel like you have a chance until you don't, until, in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts fumbles inexplicably, or, the punt bounces off the 49ers player, and that's it. They're going to win the game now. They're going to block the field goal. Well, you got down there close, but nope. This time the Chiefs are going to make all the right plays. They're playing the they're playing the Bucks. The Bucks are playing really well, and then they win the toss, and Baker Mayfield just knows it's over. We're going to lose. It's just this is not fun to watch. I'm rooting against them, and I'm probably going to be wrong. They're probably going to win the Super Bowl again, and but I know this: the next time they lose in the playoffs, it's just going to be so awesome. Oh my God, it's going to happen. You're not going to win the Super Bowl every year, whether it's this year, next year, the year after, whatever. They'll lose in the playoffs or they'll lose in the Super Bowl again, and it'll be awesome. So I'm at about a 6 or 7 on the Chiefs hate scale out of 10.
Yeah, so this is what we're going to check in with this every week to see where you at with the Chiefs hate. And honestly, Clark, I just think it's just hysterical to me. every week now it's just turned into this thing, and it's like last year it was funny how the Chiefs during the regular season kept losing games by just dumb stuff, and now it feels like they've entered this kind of place where it's all going their way. It's like they've got, it's magic now. They've just got and so today, like, it was too funny when it was 14-10. I think I said, how are the Chiefs? The Chiefs are definitely going to win this game, right? And you're like, oh, they're going to win this game with one hand tied behind their back. And then Denver got the ball last, and I was like, all right, well, let's see how they handle this. And then they got down the field, and then they made the Chiefs use their last time out, and then they ran the clock down. I was like, okay, if they execute this properly, like, then they've got it, and they go to take the kick. I'm like, okay, we're good. And then the kick gets blocked. And it just, oh my God, I couldn't stop laughing. It was so freaking funny that they figured out how to win this game, that they didn't really play well. They scored 16 points, and you're not supposed to win like games against decent teams when you score 16 points in the NFL. The Dolphins have been trying to do it forever, and they can't succeed at it.
Right. Yeah.
But somehow the Chiefs, managed to pull it off. So it just, I loved it, and I can't get enough of this. This is hysterical. It does get, I can see how it would get a bit annoying. But anyway, so my question for you is, all right, so your Chiefs hate meter, Clark, you said 6 or 7 out of 10 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So you brought up about them going undefeated. Now, here's my question to you. Is it better, like, what should the Chiefs do? Is it better for them to actually go for it and try to be undefeated, like the Patriots who lost in the Super Bowl? Or, because by my calculations, if they beat Buffalo next week and they get to 14-0, right? Maybe they may not have to get that far if Buffalo loses a game. If the Chiefs beat Buffalo and Buffalo loses a game after that. But 14-0 for sure. They would have everything clinched with 3 games to go. Because they'll have a 3-game, if they beat Buffalo next week, they'll have a 3-game lead. And so if they get to 14-0, it's done. Should the Chiefs sit and rest players and don't worry about going undefeated and just try to win the Super Bowl? Or do you think they should go try to see how far they can go with this?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, we'll see if they get there. I mean, again, I like the fact that they're 9-0 and they win a game like that. I mean, sometimes that, I think that means that we have to at least discuss it. But, yeah, they could, because when the Patriots went undefeated in the regular season, there were a couple games that it got really dicey. Nothing right. Like what just happened. So I don't think it really matters, because the way they win games, it's not like they're blowing anybody away. Like, all these games are close. So I don't think you can really rest them for like a couple of weeks. Like, you can't really do that. You gotta, they gotta be out there playing. And, yeah, I mean, again, we'll see. I mean, it's basically going to come down to, they could lose to a bad team. Sometimes that's how these undefeated streaks end. You just, you keep trying to win. And because, like, one of the things I've maintained is why I've been saying, like, oh, they're not going to three-peat, because, like, eventually this catches up with you. You keep getting behind in the second half. Like, you can't keep doing that. And I understand last year happened, so everybody's like, oh, well, that just means, no. That might just be last year. Or maybe that's something that happens over a couple of years and then stops, because you can't keep playing with fire and not getting burned. Okay. I mean, they were done. Okay. Blocking a field goal is like a rare occurrence. I mean, you can't count on that winning you games.
Yeah, I think today's luck. I mean, you can just account that for, that's not, oh, I know Chiefs fans are going to try to present you, well, you got to win in all 3 phases. They're going to present that argument to you, which is just nonsense. You can't predict winning or blocking a field goal. That's just something that every now and then happens. And it's just hysterical for it to happen right then. I just think, like, I mean, look, I think there's something to be said for both of them, right? I think, the Patriots went undefeated in the regular season, went all the way to the Super Bowl, but I think Patriots fans would tell you the team was worn out. trying to do that every single week, the pressure just gets to you, because it's just, you have to stay on that edge all that time. And as the Patriots got into the playoffs, the games kept getting more and more difficult, and they kept having more and more trouble scoring. They only scored 16 points in the AFC Championship game. They only scored 14 points in the Super Bowl. So it became very so. And then there's the Colts, who were 13-0, and like, all right, we're resting guys. And I think the Colts. I think that wasn't that the year the Colts got to the Super Bowl and lost to the Saints?
Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, either way, it doesn't guarantee you anything. And Andy Reid, when he was in Philadelphia, when they had a first round bye, they rested guys, especially in the last regular season game of the season. So, so I think both ways could work, but I do find it interesting. Like, are they better off losing a game? And like Nick Wright has presented this, like he's of the mind. He thinks it's better that they lose a game. And and the thing is, what they're doing to the Chiefs with the schedule is ridiculous. They're making them play on a Saturday and then play on Christmas Day, and then they're making it like they're making it really difficult for the Chiefs to be able to pull this off. It's hard enough as it is, and they're going to jam them up with these primetime games. So, but yeah, it just it's amazing. Today was amazing, Clark. It was like, I understand where you're coming from now. I was kind of like, no, I still like the Chiefs. And then today it was just like, okay, I get it.
Well,
I
by
get
the way,
it.
look,
I get the people that are upset.
If you're a Chiefs fan, you should enjoy the hell out of this. You
Absolutely.
earn the right to be annoying, whatever. Okay. But that's how this works. You get that, and then everybody else eventually hates on you. Basically it's like in The Dark Knight, either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So yeah, the Chiefs, you keep winning, you become the villain. So, which is just how it goes.
Yeah, and look, there's nothing wrong with that. And I'll tell you one thing, Clark, that annoys me. I don't want to hear from people who are like, well, they get all the calls. I don't want to hear that shit. Get out of here. That's a bunch of nonsense. Don't give me that crap. Like, you know what? Beat them. Like, that's all I can tell you, man. Like, execute a freaking field goal. Like, that's not the Chiefs. That's not the Chiefs getting lucky or getting the calls. That's Denver failing to make a play that every team makes every week of the season all the time. We're not talking about be superhuman here. Execute basic shit. That's what you have to do. As Mike Tomlin, one of my favorite lines that he ever said in a press conference was, I expect routine plays to be made routinely.
Yeah. Well, I also think
and that's what it is.
Yeah, as far as the Chiefs getting beaten, if your defense is bad, because today the Broncos defense is actually all season has been pretty good. That's really why they've been able to win games. Bo Nix is developing whatever. So, if your defense is bad, I just question. Now, again, the thing is, the Chiefs' offense, it's not like it's unbelievable. So, that's the reason. That's why I just, I really don't know. It's all going to depend on what happens, who they're playing in the playoffs, and how those teams are playing at that point. So, could they lose in the playoffs? It could happen. Again, they're trying to three-peat, and I've maintained something will happen, and they won't be able to keep winning. So.
Yeah, eventually you run out of gas. Pressure year after year after year when you're playing, 20, 21 game seasons, it becomes really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's but I don't know. I haven't reached the point where I'm just like tired of the Chiefs, but I haven't reached that yet. But maybe I will be. Maybe I'll get there. But you know what, Clark? They're going to Buffalo next weekend, so we'll see. That's going to be a huge game. And I was like, I sent you the text, Clark, and maybe it was the kiss of death. I said, Chiefs, Bills next week for the 1 seed, and then right after that, they blocked the field goal. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Really? You can't
and I'll just say this now, guys. If the Bills win next week, don't go nuts about it, because it really doesn't matter. I mean, they have to beat them. If they have to play them in the playoffs, they got to beat them. So it really doesn't, And they've beaten them in the regular season like 3 times in a row. And so, I mean,
Right. They beat them last year in the regular season. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with you. That doesn't doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, I just, if there was a team in the AFC that was like, oh, well, I think they can beat them, then it would be different. But I don't see it. I don't see like a real, contender to them, but we'll see. Buffalo is, I've said before, I like where Buffalo's at. I feel like they're doing things the right way. It's just I don't know, can they get better over the next 6 to 8 weeks to the point where they can win, they can beat them. I don't know. And but we'll find out. It'll be a good measuring stick next week to see where both teams are at.
Right. Yeah.
All right. The other thing that today, Clark, that I really loved was, I started off the season hating the Steelers and being just like, this is bullshit. It's a bullshit team. We're going to let Russell Wilson start. Whatever. It doesn't matter, and and like the Chiefs today, Clark, the Steelers pull this win that they, Russell Wilson throws for like 100 yards and they managed to win the game anyway. And I got to say, I love this. I love this crap. Like, it's insane. And I think I was trying to think why. Like, I love the fact that, Russell Wilson, who, come on, he's an average quarterback, but he does a couple of things during a game that are productive. The deep balls down the field are pretty good. Now our guy is George Pickens going to turn into, Lynn Swan every week and catch him? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the throw to Mike Williams at the end to take the lead was pretty sweet. But again, he only makes like 3 or 4 plays in a game, so it's really hard to, keep that up. So it's just like, oh my God. And then they got the Commanders to jump off sides when everybody in the world knows on 4th and 1, that's all you're trying to do is get them to jump off sides, and they pull it off. So,
well, let me put it this way. Okay. Could the Steelers beat the Chiefs in the playoffs?
The Steelers could beat anybody in any game, in one game.
I mean, if you got TJ Watt in there and you're playing good defense against the Chiefs offense, which is not, it's not unbelievable or anything.
Right.
And then it's basically Russell, like, could they run the ball a little bit and have Russell make a few deep throws? I mean, that's kind of, I guess that's kind of what it would come down to. And like I said, I honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised by anything. Maybe the Texans, maybe the Steelers, maybe the Bills, maybe the Ravens, even though their defense is bad. Like,
I mean, my comment to that would be, well, the Steelers defense the Steelers offense would be, like chum in the water for the Chiefs defense. I mean, Kansas City's defense would stop them pretty easily. But,
but if
like
it's a
like I said,
game,
exactly right.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So I just get such a kick out of this. And that being said, I don't think the Steelers are good. I don't think Russell Wilson is good. I'm not, and by no means am I saying the Steelers are a contender, but Clark, the way that footballs work now, where the defense is kind of adjusted to this offensive explosion, and now it's like there's a premium on, hey, let's run the football. Like Detroit has, to be honest with you, Clark, the pivot that the league is making to Detroit is spearheading it. We're going to smash the shit out of you, and we're going to run the football, and good luck stopping it.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and the Steelers are just emblematic of that. Where 4 years ago, if you tried to win this way, you'd be laughed out of the room.
Yeah.
We'd all be like, "What's wrong with you?" But this year, so I'm enjoying the Steelers in first place in their division, just like everybody predicted.
Yeah.
And, but it's just, oh God, it's funny. I'm happy. Good for Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin, man. Mike Tomlin's a good coach. That's all I can say. Like, they don't have a whole lot to work with there, and that guy just figures it out.
Yeah, I mean, we're assuming they're not going to like lose 5 in a row or something like that and just, come back down to earth. But I mean, at this point, you got to play the Ravens twice. Let's see what happens, because they're at this point, again, we'll see, because Lamar's having like an MVP season, but like, I don't know. I kind of think they're going to win the division at this point. Because the Ravens they've already got 3 losses. Like, their defense is a problem. Like, they can't afford to lose. And I just think they're going to lose to somebody because their defense is just not been playing well. So.
Yeah. And the games against the Steelers are slugfests. Like, even if you win, you get the crap beaten out of you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be difficult. And, Washington, I thought, played well today, but it was just in the when you need critical plays to be made. They're down near the goal line in the fourth quarter, and Jaden Daniels there's a wide open guy coming across the middle, and Jaden Daniels misses him. And then, at the end, they throw the ball to Zach Ertz, but he just isn't far enough to get the first down. And I mean, it's stuff like that ends up beating you. And I guess there's a little bit of Steelers in the Chiefs, Clark. They grind these things out.
Yeah.
So Clark, I think today it's official. I think we can just go ahead and say it. I mean, the Jets and the Cowboys have basically been done for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I think now that the Jets are 3-7, I think we can officially just stomp them out. I mean, obviously the Cowboys with Dak Prescott out for the year,
He's out
that's
for
the
the
end
year
of that.
now, or
yeah. He had the surgery for the hamstring, so he's done.
Okay. Well, yeah,
They announced it. They announced it yesterday. So, and of course, the New York media is going to be like, "Oh, this is a colossal failure, and they have totally underachieved." And so Clark, I'm asking the question: have the Jets underachieved? Really?
Yeah, I mean, they're not really all that great.
Yeah, I don't think they've underachieved at all. I think we completely oversold it. And honestly, they kind of suckered me a little bit. I was just like, I don't like the way this is done. I don't like the fact that they're not going to be able to block for a 40-year-old quarterback. I just think that's a problem. And I always thought the defense was overrated, but I thought they're so talented, they'll win, 7-8 games, right? I mean, that was my contention. Like, they just got too much talent not to win some games. Do I think they're great? And do I think they'll make the playoffs? Maybe, maybe not. I never bought that they were Super Bowl contenders at all. Like, that's ridiculous, not even close. And my God, they are just bad. I mean, it is just bad. When you're getting blown out by Arizona's okay. But I mean, come on. They had no chance at stopping Kyler Murray, and Aaron Rodgers was just waiting to get hit. That's all they were doing in this game. And so, yeah, I can't. I mean, I want to say I can't believe the Jets are this bad, but they're just a bad team. This is what they are. This isn't a fluke. This isn't like, oh man, how did this happen? It's like, no, they suck. And so when Colin Cowherd after they beat Houston last week, which I thought was complete garbage, until Houston had their offensive line injuries, all their receivers were out, the Jets sucked for most of the game, and then they make a couple of plays at the end and be like, hey, the Jets are back. I just couldn't get enough. I was just dying laughing at it. And then Colin Cowherd this week was like, I think they're going to get to 8 or 9 wins, just like I predicted. And I was like, what are you talking about?
No, that's not happening. It's 7. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, 6 wins, maybe.
I mean, Clark, the Dolphins played Arizona and they almost beat them. Like, it came down to the end, and the Jets got their ass kicked.
Yeah.
So it's wild, man. I don't want to say, I don't think the Jets really underachieved. I think they were not good the whole time. We bought it. And now that the Jets panicked like the Jets do, and fired their coach, and they're getting worse. Not only are they not good, Clark, they're getting worse every week. And that's what I look for at this point in the season. We start to get close to Thanksgiving. That's what I'm looking for. Who's getting better every week and who's getting worse? And the Steelers are getting better. I still don't think the Steelers are great, and I still don't think they're not really contenders for anything, but they are getting better. This is better than it was 3-4 games ago. The Jets are just a disaster that's falling apart.
Totally agree. Yeah. So it's it's just, I mean, with the Jets, they're the Jets. I can't really, it's not like it's something I'm celebrating or laughing at. It's kind of funny just because there were so much expectations. But obviously, that was kind of really ridiculous because based on the roster and the coaching and the age of the quarterback, there was no I just don't think there was people were talking about AFC Championship game or Super Bowl. There was no possibility of that, And now they're not even going to make the playoffs. I mean, so it's embarrassing, especially because they won 7 games last year,
right?
I mean, that's kind of that's. They need to throw in the towel and start rebuilding everything because they're clearly now. Granted, I don't know. They've made trades and they signed people, so I don't know how much flexibility they have moving forward. But
yeah, Clark. They made sure they had to trade for Devontae Adams. That had to be done.
Hassan Reddick, Devontae Adams, okay.
And that's the thing, Clark. And they're stuck with Rodgers for another year. Like, they can't get off
unless
of
he
it.
retires.
unless he retires, yeah, which that would be the smart thing to do. But come on, man, he's not going to turn down that money. You know,
Yeah, that's a good
there's no
point.
way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So it's just, oh man, it's good comedy. And then the Cowboys are just, I don't know that there's anything left to really make fun of there. It's just like
Well, I mean,
they're
they
just
didn't, they haven't done a good job of, like replacing people on their roster. I mean, they were really,
right.
they had a really good team, or they at least had a really good offensive line several years ago, and then they relied on that. But over time, you got to replace those guys. They haven't really done that. And then defensively, they got playmakers, but they don't really have a good defense. So, and now they're paying Dak Prescott a boatload of money, and he's gotten injured again. Which, to be honest, I mean, if you really look at it, like we bang on Tua, but Dak he's had plenty of injuries throughout his career.
Yeah.
He's missed a lot of time. I mean, he hasn't had
Yep.
concussions like Tua's had, but kind of similar. I mean, he's missed a lot of time because he's been getting hurt. So, and now he's getting older, and that probably means he's going to get hurt more.
Yeah, speaking of concussions, and we've railed on this before, Kirk, but Chris Olave of the Saints, like, all right, they put him on IR. Is anyone asking for him to retire?
No,
Haven't heard any media outcry over that. The guy's gotten 3 concussions this year. I don't hear
I didn't
anybody
realize that. Yeah,
yeah, oh God, he's got to retire. No, the media doesn't care about that. Like it's only Tua when Tua gets the concussion, Clark, his life's over and he's got to retire. Not that I'm saying he shouldn't do that. I'm just saying like the reaction is not. It doesn't make any sense.
right.
Anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that, but there's nothing else really from the NFL. The Dolphins didn't play today, thank goodness. They can disappoint us tomorrow night.
The Ravens, like I guess we sort of hit on this a little bit. They played Thursday. I mean, he's probably the MVP right now, right? I
Yeah,
mean, so which is
I think so.
pretty crazy. I mean, he's probably going to win. I mean, if he wins another one, that'd be 2 in a row. Um, and that would be his 3rd ever, which is just insane. So yeah, he's clearly playing really well. And we were talking about this the other day. Like it felt like Nick Wright was just banging on him because he wanted to keep bringing up the playoff stuff. Which I'm not saying it's unfair. Like yeah, it's a legitimate criticism. He hasn't played well in the playoffs. Like it's documented. We've seen it. But I don't know. To me, that gets a little annoying. Like it feels like we're missing the point. It's like, can we just? He's playing really well in the regular season. He's winning a lot of games. He's going to continue to win a lot of games. He's going to win another MVP this year, most likely. And who knows? He might win more after this. So yeah, does he need to win more in the playoffs? Sure, of course. But I just, like I pointed out to you, like Nick Wright was making the point. He was kind of comparing it to James Harden, and it's like, yeah, but we like Lamar Jackson. We don't like James Harden. Like, we don't really like watching James Harden play. He seems to come in out of shape. We just feel like, well, is he really committed to it? Lamar is committed. Like, he's totally committed. So, and he just wins. I mean, in the regular season, he just wins. Okay. It kind of reminds me of Peyton Manning. So will he get it done in the playoffs? Maybe not. But I mean, Dan Marino is considered one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He never won the Super Bowl. So, and Lamar,
Yep.
like I said, he keeps winning games. He'll have comebacks, all this kind of stuff. Like to me, he's a winning quarterback. Now, will he win the Super Bowl? I don't know. But I mean, we'll see. But I do. It was just getting a little annoying to me that Nick Wright keeps pointing this out, and it's like, dude, we get it. Like, and everybody already talks about that. We already point out that he needs to win in the playoffs, and like he's been bad in the playoffs. Like, if he loses again in the playoffs, what do you think people are going to do? They're going to point it out. So I don't understand why we need to necessarily get into it right now.
Yeah, you can't win in the playoffs in November, Clark. It's never been done.
Yeah. So, my whole thing is that like he's really good, and let's not lose sight of that regardless of what happens in the playoffs, because that's, there's some really good quarterbacks who didn't have playoff success. Okay. And
Yep.
it takes away from that if we just focus on, well, they got to do this other stuff. That's based on so many things. And besides which, their defense is terrible this year. So that could be the reason they lost. Not, now granted, their defense has played well in the past, and Lamar did not play well. So, you can definitely point that out, and that's totally fair. But
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's kind of tired. And to me, honestly, Clark, losing to Mahomes to me shouldn't really count against you.
yeah,
Who's beating Mahomes? Who's beating Mahomes? I don't know what to tell you. Like that's just the way. That's kind of the way sports work. Nobody was beating Tiger Woods. Nobody was beating Michael Jordan. Nobody was beating Wayne Gretzky. Like, you weren't beating those guys. That's just the way it is. And it's like you're second best. People just like second best. Well, you're just not as good. And it's like, actually, no, you're great.
yeah.
It's just
And
this is
second
the
of all,
this
the
is
other thing I think with Lamar, I think the thing that people grab onto is that a lot of people, I will put myself in this category, weren't really sure this was going to work in the NFL. Like we didn't really think, is he enough
right.
of a pocket quarterback? He's gotten way better. Like he's a pretty damn good passer now too, in addition to being able to run around. So yeah.
Yeah, they were down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter of that game on Thursday night,
Yeah.
and he
They played
did
the
it.
49ers last year, and he beat the crap out of them in the regular
Right.
season. But still, it's like, he beat the crap out of the Lions last year. Anyway.
Yep, and they ran over Buffalo earlier this year.
Yeah, they totally annihilated them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, but yeah, this is the way sports work. But to me, I don't think any less of Lamar for losing to Mahomes. I really don't. Just like I don't think any less of Josh Allen. Like he put him in position with 13 seconds left. It's not my fault the coach is a moron and can't figure out how to. I mean, seriously, you can't keep a team out of field goal range with 13 seconds left. That's on you.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
All right. Anything else from the NFL, Clark?
No, I don't think so. I didn't realize there was an international game this morning. So I remember getting on ESPN.com, like there was oh God. And it was the Giants in Carolina. So I was like, oh.
The amazing Giants in Carolina, Clark. And just for extra fun, it went to overtime. Just what everyone needs. But it was. I was keeping my eye on it, Clark, because both teams are 2-7, so somebody was going to get a win and have a better, move. The Dolphins would move ahead of them for the draft.
Right.
So that's the only reason I cared. Oh God. But anyway, yeah. So all right. So let's talk about some college football. So just kind of an overview, Clark. The way things are going now, like this college football season. I mean, maybe it's not different, but it just kind of seems different. I just feel like the teams, for the most part, excluding teams like Indiana, and Miami that are playing weak schedules, for the most part, especially the SEC and the Big Ten teams, the schedules have been a little more difficult. So it seems like you watch some of the games. I mean, Georgia just looks like they've run out of gas.
Yeah.
I mean, they just look like they've done as much as they can, and they're trying to just figure it out on the fly here. Alabama, I feel like is getting better, and Georgia is getting worse. Like even you watch Georgia yesterday, I mean, they were afraid. They're now afraid to let Carson Beck throw the ball down the field because of how many interceptions he's thrown and how bad he's played. They're now adjusted to, we're not going to be that aggressive on offense now. And so I don't know what to make of this team. So, the way it's looking, Clark, I mean, is it going to be like the NFL playoffs? Is somebody going to get hot and win the title?
I mean, could be, because you've got, we're letting more teams in, so that when you do that, then you have a possibility of something like that happening, which is pretty cool, because college football has never been like that.
Right.
I mean, ever, because it was totally exclusive for one team or a few teams. Like, so now, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, I mean, Oregon's still undefeated. Ohio State lost to Oregon by 1 point.
Right.
Yeah, and then Miami, they're kind of a fraud, obviously. I mean, they lose to Georgia Tech. I mean,
yeah. So I watched that game, and I mean, here's the thing, and this is the point that I made to you when I sent you the text. Everybody ripped the committee. They're like, "Oh, these guys, what are they doing? This is ridiculous, brand bias," and they claimed all this nonsense last week. When the rankings came out on Tuesday. Okay, almost all the results from this weekend basically backed up what the committee's been telling us.
Right.
Okay. Now, other than Miami fourth, I thought was ridiculous. Like, I don't understand what we're doing with that, because I've been saying Miami's a fraud the whole season. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, when the season started, I'm like, if they make the playoff, it'll be because of the schedule. It's not because they're awesome. And then you watch the games, and it's like they should have lost to Cal. They should have lost to Virginia Tech. They easily could have lost to Duke. Like, they're pulling these games literally. You want to talk about the Chiefs pulling games out of their ass? Watch the University of Miami play. This is just like, and this game against Georgia Tech, it was literally like the attitude of the team was like, whatever, we're behind, who cares, we'll win, and that's kind of how they were. But Georgia Tech had the right game plan, and we're like, we're going to run the ball, we're gonna hang on to it, we're gonna have a better time in possession, and we're gonna make it impossible for you to pull this off. We're gonna limit your possessions, and so they ended up just kind of falling short and they put too much pressure on themselves. And listen, Cam Ward's awesome, and he's up for the Heisman, but the dude it's like he's playing in the backyard. He thinks he can just hang out in the pocket for 15 seconds every play. And I don't care what level you're at, you can't do that. And so, so I've been saying forever that, people have been telling me, oh, the resume, blah, blah, blah. And they're telling me that Miami should be fourth. And I'm like, this is a joke. So there's a couple things. I think the media that covers college football, this is a few things I've learned off of these rankings, and I didn't realize this until the rankings came out and everybody yelled and screamed about it. They like Miami. They don't like Penn State. People think Penn State is just not good because they can't beat Ohio State, so people think Penn State sucks. They think Tennessee, they're like, for some reason there's no value in Tennessee beating Alabama. Everybody's like, Tennessee, whatever. They just don't think much of them, and everyone complains that Indiana should be ranked higher. Now, what I would say to that is, when I did my top 12 last week, I did not realize that Penn State had the 26th strength of schedule, and I knew Indiana's strength of schedule was bad, but I didn't know it was 103rd. So, when they put Penn State ahead of Indiana, everybody's like, how can you do that? That makes no sense. I'm like, no, it makes perfect sense. Penn State's strength of schedule is significantly better than Indiana, and Penn State losing to Ohio State by a touchdown is better than anything Indiana has done. Okay? The best team Indiana just played was Michigan yesterday. That was their best win. Okay? And people are like, Michigan, and Michigan is now 5-5. So, that was their best win. So, I thought, so once I saw that, I was like, oh, well, I didn't realize that. So, I definitely would have Penn State above Indiana. I mean, Penn State, they don't have like amazing wins, okay, but they beat Illinois. They almost beat Ohio State. Indiana has nothing on their resume. Yes, they've blown everybody out, and I give them credit for that. But my argument the whole time was, why is Miami not where Indiana is?
Right.
So, I guess so the committee, they're stubbing for Indiana. They're crazy about Indiana. Indiana's being disrespected, but yet they want to tell me that Penn State isn't good. So they were on, Booger McFarland was on Ryan Russillo's podcast, and Ryan's asking him these questions, and he just says, all right, so straight up, Penn State plays Miami, who would win? And I'm like, I thought it was obvious. I was like, oh, Penn State. Because Penn State's better on both lines of scrimmage. Yes, I know Penn State's offense isn't awesome, but their defense is really good. They should basically shut down Ohio State's offense in that game, right? They've got NFL players all over the place, and they can run the ball.
Yeah.
And Booger McFarland's like, oh, Miami, because they're so explosive on offense. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I was just totally lost. I was like, what are you talking about? And then Miami this weekend, all their explosiveness gets them 23 points.
Yeah.
And they're playing Georgia Tech. It's not like they're playing some awesome team. And it just, so I didn't know, I didn't understand where what's the deal? What's the deal with people just like, I know Penn State can't beat Ohio State, whatever. But I think the mistake, and this is, I'll let you talk after this. My overall point is that, Clark, I think people are thinking if you put the team in the 12-team playoff, they have to be able to win the national championship. And that's never been the case, and it's not going to be the case the way this thing works.
Yeah. So, we're going to get a bunch of people commenting on that, like, oh, this, why are you putting this team in? They can't win. And it's going to be like, that's not the point. And I thought that's what you guys wanted. You wanted other teams to
Right.
have a chance. You're like, oh, well, they don't really have a chance. It's like, well, we did tell you this before, like when you guys were
Right.
complaining about this stuff, and it's like now you've just switched. So, yeah, what are you gonna do?
And so I guess that's my overall thing. And then on Todd McShay's new podcast, which is really good, by the way, I recommend it to anybody out there. Especially if you're interested in like NFL draft stuff and college football. He got some numbers from FanDuel on this. And he said if Indiana played BYU, who would be favored? Indiana would be favored by 8. So what that tells me, Clark, is that the coaches, especially there's like a bunch of coaches and former players on the CFP committee.
Yeah.
They're watching this with the eye test and they're watching Indiana play and they're watching BYU play and they're going, yeah. And they're watching Penn State play and they're watching Indiana play and they're going, okay, this Penn State team is better than them. So I don't and now I don't agree with everything the committee did. Like I would have had BYU ahead of Indiana because BYU has 2 top 25 wins.
Yeah.
Are they the greatest wins ever? No. But it's just, to me, when it comes down to that, when you haven't played anybody and your strength of schedule is far worse than everybody else, I don't have a choice. Like I just feel like resume has got to take over at some point. Yes, I think Indiana's really good, and we'll see how good they are. They play Ohio State in a couple of weeks, and so we'll see if it's legit or not. But yeah, the other thing that annoys me, Clark, is just the constant. Well, they're going to be eliminated. This is an elimination game. It's an elimination game, Clark. Look out! Oh, I just want you to know it's an elimination game.
Yeah.
We want as many teams in the playoff as we can get, but you know what? This is every week now. Is it like the LSU Alabama game? I just kept going, and I hate that I have to. I want to keep correcting people, but it's just like that was an elimination. It was more of an elimination game for Alabama than LSU yesterday, because LSU still only has 2 conference losses. Now, do they need a lot of things to go their way to get into the SEC championship game? Yeah, but they're not done. It's not officially over. If Alabama had lost with 3 conference losses, yeah, they're probably out of the playoff because you're probably not getting an at-large, and you're far less likely to make the SEC title game. But it's just that wasn't really, like, we can say this all we want, but we don't really know what's an elimination game. Like, I've gone back and forth, but I don't know what's going to happen because we've never seen it before. Is a 3-loss team going to get in? Maybe. Like, upsets keep happening every week. Every week it's like, well, what's going to happen? I don't know. And they're worried. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I mean, I know ESPN can't do this. They can't get up there and say these rankings really aren't that important. But like, you can't go when a team's like Notre Dame's 10th, right? You can't go, oh man, these teams are going to pass them. Like, what are they going to do? And it's like, no, what's going to happen is other teams are going to lose. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it happens every single week.
Mm-hmm.
Other teams are going to lose. They're going to fall, whatever. So just keep winning. Just keep winning and you'll be fine. And then the AP poll today, Clark, Notre Dame went from 10th to 8th. So, just win. That's all you got to do. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I don't understand, I don't understand the hate for Penn State. I don't understand the Tennessee thing. Like, to me, I would have Tennessee 3rd. Like, I know Texas is probably the better team and they probably have better players, but Texas got their ass kicked by Georgia and they haven't really beaten anyone, and Tennessee beat Alabama. So I'm confused, and I don't envy the committee because this is going to be really hard to do. I kind of wish I was watching BYU against Utah. It was on late last night, and BYU almost lost. Like, it came down to the last drive, and there was a penalty call that basically changed the game. But God, it was like, oh man, if BYU loses, this is going to be much better. This might be better for everybody, but they might lose anyway. And let me tell you something, Clark. This is going to happen. I was looking at the AP poll today. So Ole Miss is Georgia. Georgia's 11th right now in the AP poll, Clark. Georgia, if the playoffs started next week, Georgia would not be in. because Miami and Boise State are right behind them.
Yeah.
They would get in for the conference champions or whatever. And so, people are gonna. There's going to be people are gonna flip out about this. There's going to be when this eventually goes down, because I think BYU is going to eventually lose. So the ACC champion and the Big 12 champion are probably not going to be ranked in the top 12. So the conference champions are going to get in automatically. So you're going to so if you're not ranked in the top 10, you're not going to make the playoff. So some team like that, Georgia or Tennessee or Ole Miss or one of those teams, is not going to get in. Like the fifth SEC team, there's not going to be enough space for it. And people are realizing now, oh man, these spots are filling up quickly. And so
yeah, and the whole lower, conference champion ranked outside of the top 10, that's going to be hilarious, because then people are going to be like, oh, well, I think you got to do something about this. It's like, guys, what you wanted automatic bids. Like, I don't understand. Right. Like, this is what you wanted. You got what you wanted. Like, what are you complaining about? Them's the breaks. I don't know what to tell you.
Like this week on the Monday morning radio show, I forget which one it is, what they call it on ESPN radio, but it's Chris Canny was complaining about this. I hate this. BYU should not be getting a bye. It's like, that's ridiculous, and it's like, I can tell he doesn't. And the thing is, this is the other thing, Clark, that I told you about the other day. All these TV networks and these sports networks talk about the NFL. They don't talk about college football. College football, only the networks that talk about it are the ones that broadcast it. And even when they do like one segment in their 2-hour show on it. Mm-hmm. They don't really dive into it. So the national media is watching the NFL. They're not paying attention to college football. Yeah. So when we get to the end of this, and so Chris Canny is complaining about this, that's too much. It's a huge advantage for BYU to get a bye. It's like, it's actually not, because every team's going to get at least 2 weeks off before the first round of games, and the teams that get the bye are going to get a month off, or they're going to get like 25 days off.
Yeah.
So it's going to be negligible. There's not going to be it's not like one team. It's not like the NFL where one team's going to get an extra week off and the other team's going to be the other team's going to be playing every week. You don't play every week in this college football playoff thing. So I just think that's going to be quite. So he's complaining about that, and then he's like, the best 4 teams should get and like my response is, well, look, NFL teams, if you're playing a bad division and you win the division, remember when Tampa won a couple years ago, they were 8-9.
Yeah.
And they hosted they got a home playoff game. It's like, what's the difference? Like you win a bad division, you get a home playoff game. So,
yeah.
And the other thing is, this is just like, we're fine with it in the basketball tournament. We have no issue when all these teams from the Southland Conference and the Ohio Valley Conference, they get a team in. No one complains then. Everyone's fine with it.
Yeah.
So why is this such a nightmare in this scenario? So let me get this straight. A 2 or 3 loss SEC team that probably hasn't really beaten anybody is going to get left out. Oh, damn. But it's going to be quite exciting. People are going to be claiming, brand bias, and they're going to be doing all this nonsense. And, Indiana was up to 5th in the AP poll. So, and listen, the CFP isn't going to be exactly like it, but it's going to be pretty similar. Right. There were just a couple of changes for the top 17 teams. There were 2 of them were switched. It wasn't really dramatic. So it's going to be pretty close to that. So if Indiana's 5th, then it's fine. They can lose to Ohio State. They'll be 11-1, and they'll probably still be in the playoff. So everything will be fine. But yeah, I just I'm enjoying it, Clark. The uproar about it that literally doesn't make any sense, and nobody can use their brain to just figure out, it's obvious. But yeah,
that's not what you're supposed to do in the sports media. You're not supposed to use your brain and actually figure stuff out. You're supposed to get outraged and think about it for 2 seconds and create an opinion based on that, based on your first reaction. Like, you can't pay Jaylen Brown $300 million. It's like, well, what else are you going to do? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, like, well, they shouldn't be ranked ahead of them. It's like, why not? And then I love the answers. Like everyone wants, it's just hysterical to me. Everyone complained about polls forever. And then now they want to do exactly what what the old AP poll would have done. Well, Indiana's undefeated. So they should be that. So that's how it should be, Clark. We should just put the undefeated teams first and rank them, and then do the one-loss teams and rank them, and then do the two-loss teams and rank them. No discernment or trying to figure out who's played who or any of that. No, we shouldn't do any of that. Indiana should just be ahead of them because they're undefeated.
Yeah, pretty hilarious. You'd think everybody would be happy now, but no, we can't. We can't be happy. We gotta figure out some way to complain about it and say this isn't what we want. You know, it's kind of the game in sports media anyway.
Oh yeah, it's just ridiculous, and it's like, guys, it's fine. And everything that happened this weekend, okay, Miami lost. Like, okay, I thought Miami was a fraud the whole time. I don't know why the committee had them fourth or whatever, right? Let's see, Ole Miss beat Georgia. What was the other one? I mean, BYU almost lost to Utah, right? Everybody was complaining about, oh, Indiana should be ranked ahead of Penn State. Well, Indiana struggled with Michigan, right? Indiana and Penn State have both played Washington now. Indiana beat Washington by about 14. Penn State beat them by 29 this weekend. So, we have a common opponent now, and Washington also beat Michigan, which Indiana really struggled with. And so I just, it feels to me like, and then Tennessee had their backup quarterback in and beat Mississippi State handily anyway.
Right.
So it just, I think the committee's they're on the right track with this. They had Indiana ahead of BYU, and everybody's like, I didn't agree with it, but the way this weekend went kind of proved what they were talking about. So I really think, they're doing a lot of eye test. And I think if the strength of schedule is dramatic, it's kind of showing up. And when you talk about Penn State and Indiana, it is dramatic. 26th versus 103rd that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And so, I think Penn State and Tennessee should be, top 4 or 5. And we'll see how Indiana does. And Penn State lost to Ohio State by 7. So if Indiana plays Ohio State better than that, okay, then we can have or equal to, because they're playing in Columbus. Whereas Penn State got that game at home. If they they play them well, then we can have a discussion about that.
Right.
But yeah, this is going to be I'm really fascinated by this, and to have a possible SEC championship game between Tennessee, Texas, or Texas A&M, like 2 out of those 3 teams in it, and no Alabama, no Georgia, no LSU is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't have much else. I just wanted to point out that, all the media complaining about it, I don't understand you guys. There are solid reasons for all of these things that they're doing. You guys just choose to ignore them.
Yeah. But some people, you just can't, I don't know. They come up with an argument, and then you're like, do you know what a tariff is? And they're like, no. It's like, okay. Well, anyway. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I didn't realize this team would get a bye. It's like, you guys never paid attention to it. You guys don't cover college football. You don't care that much about it. And then you jump in like last year when, they weren't talking about college football all the time. And then Mike Greenberg jumps in when Florida State gets knocked out of the playoffs. It's like, this is an outrage. It's like, bitch, you just find out about this 5 minutes ago.
Do you care about this, really? Like, you guys hardly ever talk about it. Who knows how much they're watching, because the way sports shows are, they just have to talk about the NFL just nonstop. But they talk about it on the Le Batard show a ton. So, we'll see how they react. They were obviously complaining, no one wants a 12-team playoff. Okay.
Except everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's getting, I'm just getting so frustrated with all of this. Like, it's just, the answers are in front of people's face, and they just don't want to hear it. And so, sometimes you can't, as we proved this week, Clark, sometimes you just can't, people don't want to help themselves. You can't help them if they don't want to be helped.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, Clark, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Hopefully, this gets out, and, we can, We'll commiserate on the next podcast. Everybody enjoy the games out there. Have a lovely weekend.